This article, like I said, is going to contribute more to the competitive nature of college football than anything else out there in the future, bar none. And as a matter of fact, if anything happens to this, then I would worry about the competitive nature of college sports. This article, like I said, is going to contribute more to the competitive nature of college football than anything else out there in the future, bar none. And as a matter of fact, if anything happens to this, then I would worry about the competitive nature of college sports up until collective bargaining. Here's what I mean. Remember all that stuff we had about Tennessee and everything like that? Oh my God, you can't do this. The NCAA cannot enforce NIL rules after judge grants injunction. So again, this is related to the Tennessee thing. For those of you, a quick run up on the Tennessee thing. Basically, the NCAA only ever punishes somebody if they absolutely 100% can prove that something is happening. Again, they want to make sure they take cases they know they can win. In Tennessee, let's just say, for better or for worse, was a little uh what's the term I want to use here? A little laissez-faire with their following of rules, and they were definitely using their NIL as inducements. Inducement meaning using it to get somebody to come to your school, basically just pay for play. The same thing, I saw an article here that says the college football currently is openly doing what we gave SMU the death penalty for. So what's happening right now? It's basically what's going on here. So with that, the fact there's no more NIL rules, there's none. Think about that. A federal judge in Tennessee granted a preliminary injunction, so we're not sure. Again, it could eventually, go away. Injunction Friday afternoon that prohibits the NCAA from punishing any athletes or boosters for negotiating name, image, and likeness deals during their recruitment process or while they are in the transfer portal. A lot of things that the NCAA was saying is the NCAA is like, it's very clear that the backup right guard, who is a 4-star who committed to you guys, does not have $80,000 worth of NIL value. You just paid him $80,000 to come commit to you for the school. And everybody around the country is like, yeah, that's exactly what we've been doing. But they got Tennessee for it. Specifically, it's Tennessee felt like they were being singled out. They were, because, again, I think probably because they just got caught so blatantly. But with that, Tennessee's like, we're going to fight back. They did. And now it looks like temporarily there's no rules. The injunction is not a final ruling in the case. Again, we said that before. But the judge's decision will likely have an immediate and dramatic impact on how NIL deals are used in the recruiting process. Quote, the NCAA's prohibition likely violates federal antitrust laws and harms student athletes, U.S. District Judge Clifton Corker wrote in his decision Friday. And again, we want to make sure here that the attorney generals of Tennessee and Virginia, they were the ones who teamed up on this because Tennessee felt like they were being ganged up against. And usually all the other teams are like, oh, Georgia fans, then Florida fans, then LSU fans. Look at Tennessee. But a lot of them were like, no, this affects us too because guess who also uses NIL funds as inducements? I'm not mad. Don't hate the player, hate the game. It is what it is. I'm actually going to go through why here. And more importantly, my bigger issue is not the fact that temporary injunction basically says there's no NIL rules or regulations at this point. That's not what I'm going to talk about. Because again, the point behind it is I said that this right here is going to contribute to more parity in college football than anything else. Here's the reason why. I want to make sure that I go through this. One second here while I pull this up. The great thing about being a really, really good college football team is the fact that you're always going to get recruits anyway. Here is what I mean. So if you look at the recruit rankings right now. So here you are, the 2024 recruiting football team rankings. Let's go through this and let me just see if you see any commonalities here. Okay. Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Miami, Ohio State, Texas, LSU, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Auburn, Clemson, Florida State, Tennessee, Florida, and then Penn State. Of all of those teams up to Penn State and Oregon, I believe, since 2000 are the only ones that haven't won a national championship. Georgia, Bama, Oregon is gone. Miami has won a national championship. I think 2001, they won the national championship. Ohio State won the national championship. Texas won the national championship. LSU's won the national championship. Oklahoma, I believe, in 2000 has. Notre Dame went to the national championship. Notre Dame also didn't win it. Auburn won a national championship. Clemson won a national championship. Florida State won a national championship. Tennessee won a national championship. Florida won a national championship. Michigan just won one as well. USC won one as well. But you see the fact that there is a very high correlation of national championships among the recruit rankings. Because again, remember here at the end of the day, if you don't need extra incentive to go to Georgia or Alabama, it helps, but you don't need extra incentive to do so. Now, where this changes, this is where it is very, very particular here, because within the recruiting rankings, it's pretty well understood that that's how that operates. However, what about the transfers? All right, Ole Miss, all those championships they won. Oh, well, what about Texas A&M? All the, huh? Well, Oregon, okay, and then Florida State, and then all those Colorado, and Louisville, okay, Texas, Ohio State, and then South Carolina, Alabama, and then NC State. Washington's gotten to the national championship, and then Missouri, USC, okay, Georgia, Kentucky, TCU, Florida, Purdue. Again, you see the fact that we do not have the same level of competition. We don't have the same level of parity. Not even, I wouldn't even want to say parity, same level of concentration of national championship winning teams. A lot of these teams, again, Ole Miss wants to win a national championship. Texas A&M wants to. Colorado wants to. Louisville wants to. South Carolina wants to. The thing about this is the inducements from NIL don't affect people's ability to go to Georgia. It helps. That's not why you go to Georgia. Okay. You still have NIL. You still have inducement NIL. But that's not the main reason why. Ole Miss, they're not able to attract the same level of recruits as a Georgia or an Alabama does. However, we can make up for it. We can try a little bit harder here. And maybe we'll try a little bit harder with a little bit of inducement here. Maybe Ole Miss do. We already know about Texas A&M. Texas A&M, all that oil money, they want to be good at sports. We already know about that. But I'm basically saying the point that I'm trying to make here is that with that ruling, that the NIL is basically can be used as an inducement. There's no real rules at this point. It's just a preliminary injunction that might go away eventually. Trust me, that might happen. But with that, I wanted to show you something that's really interesting to see here. All right. This is so cool to look at this up until you actually see it. Week 14. So this is headed into conference championship week. So right now, this is right here is conference championship week is set. The teams are there. These are the teams that are going to be playing for the potential to go to the college football playoff and so on. So check about this out. Of the top 8 teams, number 1, number 4, and number 5 and number 6 didn't go. 1, 4, 5, and 6 did not go to the national championship. 2, 3, 7, and 8 went to the national championship. When was the last time we entered conference championship week? And legitimately, the 8th seed was Alabama. Alabama had an overtime game against Michigan to go to the national championship. Alabama, during that week, like I said, heading into the SEC championship game, a lot of people are like, Alabama, well, Georgia's going to win. They're going to be fine. Again, that is a level of parity that I haven't seen in college football in years. I want to say it was 2016 or 2015. The number 2 team in the country, Ohio State, played the number 3, or it was Ohio State or Clemson. They played each other. It was 31-0, 2 versus 3. And that was in the playoff. That's not talking about the conference championship week, which, by the way, we saw Oregon lose to Washington again. We saw, Ohio State didn't play actually that week. Texas beat Oklahoma State. They won that game. Michigan won. And again, so Florida State, they won, but then they actually got left out. That's a whole argument in and of itself. But basically what I'm trying to say here is that with the fact that the NCAA is no longer, or at least preliminarily, no longer allowed to regulate those inducements. Like I said, the thing about it is those top flight teams are always going to get those players. It's been Colin Cowherd at this point before. He's like, who won the national championship in the 1950s? Let me guess. Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, USC. No way. Who's going to win the national championship in the 80s? Michigan, Ohio State. Actually, a couple of those teams actually had down years. I know the USC in the 90s was not exactly doing fantastic. But what I'm basically trying to say here is generally, Oklahoma is going to be fine. Texas is going to be fine. What the NIL inducement allows is those mid-tier teams that really want to be good take away. Remember here, the Alabama, for every one guy they get in the transfer portal, they lose 4 guys who are like, you know what? I'm going to be a backup at Alabama, but I'm going to go over here and start right away. And they're going to pay me for it. I'm going to go to Ole Miss. I'm going to go to Texas A&M. I'm going to go to Louisville. I'm going to go to Colorado. We're going to see how that kind of goes. That's the reason why I think that article there, again, when we have a salary cap or something like that, a lot of stuff that can happen here. However, those top flight recruits are always going to commit to USC and Michigan and Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama. They're always going to commit there. But what happens when they start committed to a top flight transfer, commits to TCU, goes to Oklahoma State, goes to BYU? That's where those teams can formulate, once they get the right number of seniors, they get a transfer in and a couple important positions. At Ole Miss, again, this next season, Ole Miss, I'm just saying, it's interesting about Ole Miss. But again, that article there, going through that NIL, I absolutely love it. I know that it sounds weird because it does create a pay for play situation, but it always was like that. It always was. There's some people out there who say, oh, yeah, well, the reason why the college football was so competitive was because now not only can one conference pay all their players. I know that's an SEC dig, and the SEC deserves more credit than that, okay? But still, at the same time, like, the rumor is that if it's an in-state player, the in-state school is the only one allowed to offer them the most amount of money. Again, whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. But all I'm saying here is this inducement, the NIL as an inducement, it's leading to more parity for right now. And remember, guys, if you guys want to see something, let me know. But that'll be it for me, guys. I will see you guys later. I am